Hi, this is the next video lesson that's up uh, using slope-intercept equations. So maybe before I do that, I should get started with a little bit of a lesson on this one. When you have linear equations, we did this in high school also, but it was a little bit of a while ago. One thing to keep in mind about problems is that there's three possible ways of expressing a linear equation, and you're going to be responsible for knowing all three of them. And the first one is the one you know pretty much all across the board, and that one is the world famous y equals mx plus b. This is the first of the three that you know. It's the most commonly known one, and this is actually the slope-intercept form of a linear equation. The reason they call it the slope-intercept form is because it literally contains, I'm always in my way, I'm going to get rid of myself. It literally contains the slope and the intercept in the equation, and you know the format of these problems. There's basically like y equals negative 2x minus 7 or something like that, where negative 2 is the slope. Remember, it's a fraction, negative 2 over 1, and the y-intercept is negative 7. That's the first of the three that you're going to be responsible for knowing. The other ones will come up in time, but this is the main one for this example set that we're going to be working on today. So if we go to Lumen, and you see that it's an 8-point set of problems, so that's going to be a little bit more involved, I'm guessing. This is actually concerning because it means it's going to be a little bit more work than we might normally have looked at. Let's look at the first problem. I think if you look at that, yeah, it's going to be a video problem just like it normally is, and that's no big. We can do the video if you like, and it's going to tell us the exact same thing that we've been doing before. But again, I don't think they're going to be really all that hard. Okay, 2 videos. Okay, that's good. 3 videos. 4 videos. 5 videos. A lot of videos to look at here. 6 videos. 7 videos. And 8 videos. Okay, this is literally a lesson, so there must be questions here. Okay, yeah, there are at the bottom. Let me zoom out so I can see those at the same time that the video's on screen as well. And if you look at this, find an equation of the line that has a slope of negative 10 and a y-intercept of 9. Maybe I should get it bigger. It's a little bit too small for me. And I'm going to ignore the video portion of the screen. Well, if it has a slope of negative 10, that's easy. Then it's going to be y equals negative 10x. That's going to be our slope, and that's assuming that it's going to go down by 10 and over by 1. Remember what we said about the slope-intercept form is that when you've got a negative value, the numerator is the rise and the denominator is the run. There's always a denominator. Okay, always a denominator of negative 10. So this is a fairly steep slope is what we would call it. That means that from one step to the other, it goes down by 10 and over by 1. So it's negative 10 and 1, and then it repeats negative 10 and 1 forever pretty much, because lines are infinite. So that's what it's going to look like. And then the y-intercept in this case is a 9, a positive 9. So we're going to actually bring the sign of it, and it's going to be y equals negative 10x plus 9. Submit. Uh-oh, what did we do wrong? What did we do wrong here? Slope of 10 and a y-intercept of 9. Why you're... I gave an equation, not an expression. Okay. Oh, I see. I included the y equals when I shouldn't have. Okay, so that's good. It didn't mark us wrong. It just said that we wrote it down wrong. Lumen is finicky. So you're going to find that happening a lot, to the point where you really get annoyed with it. So just be patient. Now, they want us to know what the slope of this particular graph is. And if you look at this graph, I'm not going to dwell on it too much. I'm going to try to... Apparently I can't copy the graph normally the way it's formatted here, but I am going to copy it because I can. And I'm going to paste it into this picture here. Oh, okay, I need to insert recent images, and there it is. Okay, so I'm going to have that slope. Okay, now the reason I wanted that slope here is because I wanted to tell you exactly what I'm going to be doing here, so that in a way that you can see it and it makes sense to you. All right, so the first thing I do is you're going to want to find a perfect nexus. Something like here, for example, where it's exactly going through the horizontal and the vertical and the diagonal at the same time. And then your biggest challenge is to find another location where it's going to do the exact same thing. Not here, not here, definitely not here, not here. It does here though. So that's the first thing I would like you to identify here. And then just count it off. Okay, you got to make a triangle. Okay, I'm going to make it bigger so you can see that. I'm going to make it a nice heavy line. You're going to want to create a triangle, a right triangle that's going to go down to the level of the other point, and then you're going to count off. That's all you need to do here. So I'm going to count down from there, starting from 4, 2, 1, -2, 4. That's down by 4. And then my run is 1, 2, 3. So it's over 3. So my entire slope here is a -4 over a 3. And this is one of those decimal values. It's not 2 or 4 or 5 or 8 or 1 for that matter. It doesn't terminate. It's going to be a -1.3333. You cannot write that. You got to leave it in fraction form if you want to get this answer right. So don't have fraction phobia as much as possible. Just go with the flow. The slope is -4/3, and that's fair enough. The y-intercept appears to be, it wants it as a coordinate. Be careful. So it doesn't want just the number 4. It wants 0, 4. And the last thing it wants is to put everything together in the intercept form. Slope-intercept form is equal to y is equal to -4/3 x plus 4. And I think that's it for this particular question. They are getting harder, as you can see. We got that right. Green light. Move on. Okay, what's going to happen here? Give the slope and the y-intercept of this line. Okay, so this is going to be something fairly new to some of you. And this is the second form of a linear equation. Remember I referred to there were 3 different forms? This is the second one of the 2. So I'm going to take a minute and talk about that one. Okay, because that has a name, and we're definitely going to want to be familiar with it, because part of the exams, if they haven't changed at all, and they probably haven't changed that much, is to convert linear equations from one form to any of the other 2 forms. And this is the second major player in that sweepstakes. There really should be a way to erase all of this at one time, but apparently there isn't. However, I do like this board, so I'm going to keep it. I'm going to clean it up, Okay. The second form of a linear equation that we have to deal with here is going to be this one. Oh, I have to insert it. My bad. Where are you? And that might be it. I can't tell. I think so. Yeah. Okay. You see that it's got a -4x and then a -5y equals 2. We have a name for that form. It's called, and it's really odd because we call it this. It's called standard form. This is called standard form, and you should become familiar with it. Standard form has the format of ax plus by equals c. So the format is capital AX plus capital BY equals c, where c is some constant, which is why we call it that. And here you'll notice that the a is a -4 and the b is a -5 and the c is a 2. So don't get too thrown off by that, because all it means is that you're going to take a slope-intercept equation and just move the x to the left, right? And assuming there's no fractions, you're done. But if there's a fraction, there is an extra step. So we're going to give the slope and the y-intercept of this line. All right, so you have a couple of things you can approach this problem with. I'm going to give you the easier one, I guess, and then I'm going to give you the one that's actually superior once you get used to the problem. And I'm going to throw that image right back in there again. I think this is it, but I'm not sure. I think it's right. Okay, so the first thing, you can do one of two things. You can either rewrite this equation into slope-intercept form, or you can do something else. I'm going to do the rewriting first. -4x minus 5y equals 2 means that we have a couple things wrong. Remember that in slope-intercept form, y is by itself and it is positive. It must have both for this to take on the characteristics of this. So whatever y is, y has to have no coefficient and it must be a positive value. Whatever you have to do to get there, you have to do. First thing you want to do is probably, I guess I'm going to add 4x to both sides because that might be easier to digest at first. And remember, you have to do it to this side too. So you're going to get negative 5y is equal to 4x plus 2, if you allow me that. It's just reversing the order. And remember that transitive property says I can put this in either order because addition doesn't matter the order. And I get that thing. You can see we're almost there. The final step is to divide everything by a negative 5. Okay, so that's going to give me negative 5 divided by negative 5 across the board, negative 5 across the board, and here too. Okay, so you're going to end up with negative 5 divided by negative 5, which is y, and that's equal to a negative 4 over 5x minus 2/5. I hope you can see where the minus comes from because it divided by a negative number here. Now, if you're a little bit savvy, you might choose to rewrite this in decimal form because this being 5, it will turn into a decimal value, a clean decimal value. You could also rewrite this as y is equal to negative 0.8x minus 0.4. It's 0.8x and 0.4. It's the exact same equation, but I think it's easier just to leave it in this format as long as you're careful about how you enter it in. So this is the slope is negative 4 over 5. The y-intercept is negative 2 over 5. Now bringing it back to Lumen. Slope is negative 4 over 5, and the y-intercept is a negative 2 over 5. And putting it in, again, you can turn it to decimals if you like. You don't have to. It'll take it either way. Okay, that's one way of doing this. Another way, which is probably better if you practice it a couple times, I'm going to write that problem again. I'm going to go to my next screen. Okay, what have I got? Negative 4x minus 5y equals 2. I just want to make sure I wrote that right. Negative 4x minus 5y equals 2. I did. Okay, another thing you could do is just remember this quick little formula, which is the slope given this format is going to be negative capital A over B. Okay, and we just have to fill them in. So in this case, it would be a negative negative 4 over negative 5. It means the exact same thing. All right, now looking at this, you can see that negative 4 over negative 5, it'll be a positive value. So it'll be a 4 over a 5. But wait, that negative sign out here will flip it around, and it'll become a negative 4 over 5, which, if you remember, is exactly what we had before. It's a negative 4 over 5 here, and it's a negative 4 over 5 there. It means that we got it right. This requires a little bit of practice, and probably I should make a video about practicing this in a drill form, but just enough that you understand that this is another way of doing it. Okay, so we got this right. We're going to go to the next question now. What kind of devilry can it give us here? Okay, this is the third of the major equation forms, and this one is actually, I like it. Most people don't, but I'm kind of crazy that way. I do tend to like it. This is called something else. This name for this one, I'm going to paste that image in so you can see it again. And here we go. Okay, now you'll notice a couple things about this problem. This has got a point, okay, and it's got a slope. This is actually called point slope form. It's called point slope form. I'm going to write that down so you're familiar with it. Point slope form. And it's really easy to do. You just have to remember the general format, which is y minus y1, okay, where y1 is a particular point. I'm going to change the color on that one just to really drive that point home. Haha, funny. You see what I just did there? Y minus y1. Let me make that red. Change the colors here. Okay. y1, go back to green, equals I'm going to make the slope blue. M parentheses should be in green. Now you can see it's getting out of hand. Parentheses x minus, I'm going to close the parentheses because I'm going to have to do that anyway, x1. So take a second, pause the video if you like, read this through carefully, see if you understand what I'm going to be doing here. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1, where x1 and y1 are actually a point that you're working with in the problem. All right, x1 and y1 are points, specific points. And what you're going to do is you're going to have to practice this with me over time. You're going to be using this more and more. The slope is negative 3 over 4 if we follow our structure. And then we have to talk about what this means, okay? Another way of doing this is probably to think of it as a plus a negative y1 and a plus a negative x1. So I'm going to actually put this into work here. So I'm going to have to add another slide and play with this idea. So let me do that here. Okay, so I'm going to insert that one more time. Okay, and what that means is that my original point was 1. Oh, sorry. My original point apparently was 1, comma 2, and I'll show you what I mean by that. If I do my formula, y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1, I'm going to put the y here, I'm going to put the x here. Okay, so that means that I'm going to literally use the y where this is located. So it's going to be y minus 2 equals the slope. The slope is negative 3/4. Negative 3/4 is here. Parentheses x minus x1. x1 is your x value here, so that's going to be x minus 1. Okay. Now the reason I put it in the other form before is because if it had been a negative 1 or negative 2, you'd be minus a negative, but it's not happening here. And they want us to change it into slope-intercept form. So they want us to turn it into y equals mx plus b. They want us to go from that to this. Okay, so that means, remember, y is by itself and positive. Keep that in mind. So we're going to do PEMDAS on this. That means we're going to have to distribute the negative 3/4. Negative 3/4 times x is negative 3/4 x. Okay, and negative 3/4 times negative 1 is a positive 3/4. Okay, but now we're going to add 2 to both sides because of this here. So this is going to be plus 2. So we're going to go to a new slide. I'm going to copy this equation that I've drawn together, and we're going to work with it in the next Jamboard slide. I'm going to bring it over right now, make the background black so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to put that puppy in. Okay, so if you see that, okay, this is what we've got. This is where we are. You can see that we're going to have to add the second and third term together. We're going to have to combine like terms, okay, which means we're going to have to add fractions together sometimes, or do a little mental conversion. So I need to add 3/4 plus 2 over 1. 3/4 plus 2 over 1. Remember, denominators must be common denominators. So I'm going to go easy here. I'm going to actually multiply this by 4 over a 4. Not a 4 over 1, a 4 over 4, because 4 over 4 is equal to 1. Therefore, I'm not changing the value. I'm just changing the way it looks. That's an 8, right? 2 times 4 is 8. 1 times 4 is 4. So it's 3/4 plus 8/4. 8/4. 8 divided by 4 is 2, so it's correct. It's 11 over 4. So what we end up with is y equals negative 3/4 x plus 11 over 4. And that's our final answer. Negative 3/4 x plus 11 over 4. So back to Lumen. This is y is equal to negative 3/4 x plus 11 over 4. That should be right. Let's see what happens. Did it work? I can't tell. Did I submit it? I can't tell. Let's see what happens. I don't. Oh yeah, it took a second, but it did. You can see that it was correct. Okay, so that was which one? That was question number 4 out of a possible 8. So it might be a good idea to break at this point, and I'll make a second video with part 2 of this, just to not make things too crazy.